Hello and welcome to the garden next door. Today we're going to be talking about how to make your own beeswax candles. And they not only smell great because we're going to be using essential oils, also the smell of beeswax just smells so delicious and there's a little touch of honey in it. But there are so many amazing benefits to beeswax candles. Okay, let's talk beeswax. I actually have some beeswax pellets here. You see they sell them in just little tiny pellets. Now, compared to the petroleum-based waxes that are on the market, this is actually a natural, renewable, and green source of candle making materials. Beeswax is found everywhere around us, and it's made by the beauty of bees as they pollinate the flowers in our gardens. Now, what's also really amazing about beeswax is when you burn it, it is actually going to produce so much better items into the air because it has negative ions. Negative ions are also found at the seashore, so when you're out sitting at the ocean, you can be getting those negative ions and they're really, really great for you, but the same effect can happen with burning a beeswax candle. They bind to dust, toxins, and even odors, pulling them out of the air. That means fewer allergens floating around. Another benefit of our beeswax candle is they actually are going to be able to burn a lot longer. They burn in a much higher heat, which is something we will discuss later when we talk about the vessel that you're putting your beeswax into to make these candles. But that means that you'll have a nice longer burn time, a cleaner burn, and who doesn't hate the beautiful scent of honey that might have the aromatic benefits of your beeswax candles. Not to mention, when burned, they are not going to produce a black soot into the air like a paraffin candle might, and it's not going to have those awful pollutants that are released as well. Because a normal paraffin candle is actually going to be quite harmful in your house than beneficial. When thinking about the benefits of beeswax candles in comparison to other paraffin candles, you might start to think that you just want to replace all of the candles in your house, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. And some of the beeswax candles can be quite lofty in price, and you don't actually know what's in all of them. So what I decided to do was start making my own, and not only do I keep these in my house, but I give them to friends and family over the holidays, as well as sell them at our farm stand for around $8 to $10, depending on the vessel that I am selling them in. So let's go over what you need to actually start making your own candles, because you'll realize after a couple candles that you've made, it's probably the same price investment as just buying a few candles. So the first thing is a nice big supply of beeswax. I actually use pellets, but it can come in blocks as well. There's a few different forms. I just felt like this was going to be the easiest form to work with. Next up, we want to be combining it with a nice type of coconut oil. Just choose a clean organic coconut oil. Now, the benefits of pairing coconut oil with our beeswax, and we do want to do a 2-to-1 ratio when we're making it, is that it's going to make it so that you have a longer lasting burn. It is also going to help with reducing tunneling. And tunneling is when you actually pour your candle, parts of your candle are going to melt at different paces because beeswax has such a high burning temperature. It cools at a different time as well. So the interior is gonna cool a lot slower than the exterior, and then it starts to tunnel down. And we are gonna go over how to remediate that at the end of the video too. So if you've started to get tunneling, we will go over how to fix that as well. It's pretty easy, so don't worry. Next up is actually deciding how you're going to be melting your wax. I decided to just make the investment of a wax melting pot. It just makes it really easy to do, and it has a nice spout to pour from, which just makes it 1,000 times easier than a pot and getting spilling everywhere. It also came with a few different items. I'll link the one that I got, but it had a nice spatula, and it also had a nice thermometer, which you will need both of these items as well. Then I did get some essential oils for mine. This is optional. You can just stick with the beeswax scent. And then lastly is choosing the vessel that you want. So I decided to go with these darker amber glasses that have their own lids on them. I just really like these. I think it was a lot nicer to have a lid, especially because I do sell a lot of these at my farm stand, and it's easy for gifting. And when you make them, usually the vessels, especially if you're getting a candle vessel, will come with their own wick and a little sticky for the bottom, so you'll just stick those in, and then something to just keep your wick drying straight. So this is essentially just a popsicle stick with a hole in it, or you could use a pencil if you have a really long wick. Okay, let's talk about how we're going to actually start making our wax for our candles. So first up, I'm going to do 2 parts of my beeswax to 1 part of my coconut oil. I just eyeball it because it's just really easy to do that, and coconut oil can be hard to work with. In measuring cups, just lots of cleaning. We're gonna go ahead, plug this baby in, get it nice and melted. Okay, so what I've done now is I've melted everything. Once everything is nice and melted, and like I said, beeswax melts at a really high temperature, I'm gonna go ahead and actually just unplug it and let it cool down a little bit now that everything's melted in here. Then I'm gonna take my thermometer, and once it reaches around 140 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my essential oils. Now, the reason we want to wait till it's cooled down to that temperature is basically just because the essential oils will burn off if you put it in when it's at a higher temperature. So right now we're still at around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip this. We're gonna go and actually start to assemble our candles, and then we'll come back to this. The next step is actually assembling your vessels. So when you receive your vessels in the mail, they shouldn't have anything on them. You can also use mason jars or older candle jars if you want as well. And the first thing that you want to do is make sure that they're nice and clean on the inside. I gave all of them a nice clean rub down and dried them all off. Then what I'm going to do is take my wick and center it in the nice center, and it usually comes with a nice piece of double-sided tape that you can just pop it in there, and I'm going to try to make sure that everything is aligned pretty well. Then I get my nice little popsicle stick here with all of our holes, and I will line this right in the top center here. Now, it doesn't need to be too centered. I've noticed that when you actually start to pour, you usually just need to go to one side and then kind of move it over into the center to let it dry. So we'll go ahead, and once our temperature goes down to around 150, we're going to add in our essential oils, and then we'll let it cool down for a little bit longer. Once it starts to form dried up wax along the edges of our melting pot, I'll go ahead and pour them into our vessels. We'll make sure everything is nice and flat. It might sink a little as it starts to harden, and then we'll come back in 24 to 48 hours to check on our vessels and how everything's going. It is now the next day. Last night, I did notice some tunneling in my candles, which is basically when the wax dries. It can dry at different times because the outer edge is much cooler than the inside. The outside's just drying at a different pace than the inside, especially because beeswax runs so hot. They sometimes can dry at different temperatures, and that will cause it to tunnel down in the center. Now, the best way to fix this is, one, you can wait to pour until it's cooled off a bit more. Sometimes I just get really excited and I pour them. So the second way that you can do this is actually fixing it, and that is with a heat gun. You can kind of just take it like we did with our Milwaukee, and you just kind of cool the edges. You go around and heat up the edges, and then it will all just melt straight, and you'll find that it just melts a lot nicer. Now, what we did here is we have our wicks up a little bit higher. So the last step here is just cutting down your wick. You still want to make sure that you have a nice good wick size here, but something that is a bit shorter so that it doesn't go over. And then I have a vessel cover. I sell these without any labels because I just like that look a lot more. I also give them like this. I'll let my friends, family, whoever is getting this know that it is lavender essential oil scented, but this is a nice, clean, non-toxic candle, and you'll notice that once you do this a few times making your own candles, or you make a good amount, then you've really recouped the price of all your materials. With the holidays coming up, candle making is a great way to give gifts to your friends and family that are homemade with love, and they're not at the crazy price, as well as you're gonna have really healthy organic materials in the making. Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll see you again next time in the kitchen or in the garden. Have a good one. Bye.